I'm going to show you how to cover a cake drum. So if you've covered your cake down to the cake drum and now you want to use a contrasting colour on the board around the outside, this is how you need to do it. So we'll just move this out the way and we'll get our chosen colour, and I've chosen to use pink this time. So we're going to need it to get some heat into it to make it pliable, just like you would every time you're using sugar paste. You need to do this to make it pliable so that it doesn't crack and you get a nice smooth finish on it. Okay, that's nice and smooth. You can see that's nice and smooth and ready to use. So now I'm going to try and roll out a rough square for this. So start to roll it out because I want to try and get 4 strips of paste out of it. A little bit of icing sugar underneath the sugar paste to prevent it sticking. You don't want to have this too thick either because it just looks horrible on the cake drum if it's really thick and bulky. So nice and thin. It's a good way of using up odd bits of paste as well. Okay, like that. I think I need to just get it a little bit longer, so a little bit more like an oblong, so that I can get 4 strips out of it. There we are. That will do nicely. And then we're just going to get, you want to have straight edges. It doesn't matter about this edge here because we can trim that part off. You'll see that later. So we're just going to try and get roughly 4 strips. You don't have to be too particular with them. As you can see, that's not very even at all. We'll just move those out of the way to one side while we get our cake drum ready. So we bring the cake back in, and then in order to make the sugar paste stick to the cake drum, all we need to use is some water. So we just put some water just around the cake drum like that. Don't need much, you're literally just dampening it down. And then you put the strips of paste along the side of the cake drum. And you push the nice straight edge right up against the cake and then just tap it down to the cake drum. Again along the front. Make them overlap at the front like that. Push it up to the cake. Just smooth it down with your fingers. Again on this side you want to overlap it. And then across the back we'll overlap that as well. And then with your non-stick knife, you can feel underneath here, you can feel the corner of the cake drum. And if you keep your hand on the cake drum and work from this corner of the cake to the corner of the cake drum, you just cut at an angle like that. And then all you do is take away the excess paste. If you lift this up, you'll see you've cut through the excess paste underneath. And that gives you a nice neat corner like that. And then we do the same on the other side. So you can feel your finger underneath the paste and cut through. These are not sharp, these knives, but they do have a nice pointed edge that gives you a nice neat finish. There, that's those 2. And then we do the 2 at the back. So you're doing exactly the same. Pull through the pieces of paste that you cut off and just buff the edges up to each other. Same on that one. And then all we need to do next is to make it nice and smooth. So if we get one of our smoothers, just make sure it's nice and flat, and you can see, if you just tilt it, you can see the edge of the cake drum there. Buff these up to each other. Smooth it out. Make sure it's right up against the cake, so you're pushing it towards the cake and just gently pushing it down so that you can see the corner of the drum. See that there? You need that because you're going to be trimming that off there. Yeah, that's nicely done. And then with your non-stick knife again, you just run it down the side of the cake drum, like that. Nice and gently, and take off the excess paste. All the way along. It's quite a bit more cost effective doing a cake drum like this rather than covering the whole drum. and then placing your cake on the top of it. Especially if you're just doing a birthday cake, you don't really want to be using all that sugar paste. This is a cheaper way of getting the same effect. So now we've got nice neat corners on our cake drum. Make sure that they're nicely neat and cut off there. And then what you can do with these corners is you can pipe down them, or you could stick little blossoms on them if you're doing a lady's cake, but it looks very nice with piping across them. And then what you've got to do with your fingertips, just with the fleshy part of your fingertips, is you just soften the edge down of the cake drum like that all the way around, and that just gives you a nice neat finish on it, so that you haven't got that pointed sharp edge. And that's nicely rounded off. Just get this sugar paste out of the way and I'll show you how you can neaten that drum up now. So when you cover a cake drum, you wouldn't normally leave it showing like this. You would normally get a ribbon and put it around your cake drum like that to make it nice and neat. So if you just hold your ribbon around the outside like that, cut it off to fit with a pair of sharp scissors. You need a slight overlap on it. And then we have this double-sided tape. So there's the ribbon. If I just move the cake back, you might be able to see what I'm doing with the ribbon. This is the double-sided tape. So you peel that off and place that in the centre of your ribbon and lay that all the way down the length of the ribbon that you've just cut off to fit. You could put pieces of this on if you didn't want to use so much tape, but it isn't very expensive, this tape, for a big roll. And it's a lot easier if you just do it in one strip rather than trying to peel lots of little pieces off. Okay, and you can just break the end off. And then if you press it down with your fingers to make it stick really hard, then you can just peel the side of it off and start to peel the back end of the tape away. And then decide where the back of your cake is going to be. We'll make this the back of the cake here so you can see how I'm going to stick it. And you literally just push that in place, let the ribbon sit on the work surface, and that will be nice and even then. If you just let it sit there, you'll find its own level, and then you just push it into place. So let it sit on the worktop, push it down, go all the way round, push it down there, and then you just overlap slightly, and there, push it in place, and now you've got a finished off cake with a nice neat board, and that's all ready for you to decorate.